There was a strong sense today that, rather like the spirit of Banquo's ghost, the issue of Europe, which shattered two Conservative governments, was somewhere abroad. The leadership simply wasn't discussing the issue, but one person was. Restlessly stalking the fringes of the conference was the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson. When the chance came, he chucked a flower pot through the window they'd shut. Our political editor, Michael Crick, reports.
After the war, Churchill was in favour of us being part of Europe.
No,
he
wasn't.
so.
No, he wasn't.
Look in your history box. Look in your history
No, he
box.
wasn't. You get rid of democracy.
Yes. I'm not prepared to get rid of democracy.
Well, then you need to leave the EU.
Not talking about that.
To the dismay, no doubt, of David Cameron, Europe's again a big issue at a Conservative conference. As leafleters from UKIP argued with a member of the public, Tories were reminded of the electoral threat from their more Eurosceptic rivals on the right, especially if they can no longer promise people a referendum on Europe. The shadow cabinet, though, prefer not to discuss Europe and stick to their set line when they have to.
This is your last conference before the election. This is your opportunity to set out your stall, and you can't tell us
We've made our position very clear, Michael. We want to have a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty, and if it hasn't been ratified by the time of the general election, we will hold that referendum. If it does get ratified, we will not let matters rest there, and we will set out our proposals when that situation arises.
Mr. Osborne, how about this idea of having a referendum on something else apart from just Lisbon?
Well, you know what, Michael? I'm really looking forward to being on your programme on Wednesday night, so don't spoil it for me in advance.
So, a Tory referendum, it seems, until Lisbon's fully ratified by all other states. But that unity on the Commons front bench was overshadowed by the party's Mayor of London again saying some kind of referendum on key parts of Lisbon is still possible, even after it comes into force.
If and when the treaty is ratified, and that's before a Conservative government comes in, then it's a difficult matter, and obviously William Hague and David Cameron will have to consider how to give effect to the consultation that I think people will want to have.
That won't have pleased the last Europhile in the shadow cabinet, though he tried not to let it show.
That's the only policy we have.
Mr. Clark was off to a lunchtime fringe of the Conservative European group, where he hinted that if the party does manage to hold a Lisbon referendum, he might go against his colleagues and fight for a yes vote.
We wait to see whether we have a referendum, and I'll see whether either side invites me. But if we have one.
But later, Mr. Clark put out a statement saying he wouldn't, in fact, campaign against his colleagues on Lisbon. And the Tory leadership can't ignore the strength of grassroots feeling against the EU, shown at another fringe meeting held by the highly Eurosceptic Bruges Group.
Well, already there are perhaps twice as many people here as heard Ken Clarke at lunchtime. And unlike that lunchtime fringe meeting, this meeting is actually taking place while the conference is still going on.
Many in the almost 300-strong audience still want a referendum on the whole treaty, even if all states have ratified it.
This week, we must hear from the Conservative leadership that there will be a referendum when they are elected. William Hague says we can only have one policy at a time. The policy is to have a referendum. We want that one policy put to the British people in a general election.
What do you think Cameron government should do about Europe if the treaty has been ratified and by the time he's elected?
I think he should stick by what we've said before. I think there should be a referendum. I think it's very important for this country.
We should have a vote regardless.
On the treaty?
On the treaty.
Not perhaps a referendum on something else?
No, on the treaty.
Everyone wants to say, but what they really want to say is in or out, not anything about Lisbon.
So that should be the referendum, in or out, should it?
Well, I think so.
Most candidates, the party's future MPs, are pretty Eurosceptic too, but they were phoned one by party staff last week, warning them to behave this week and remember party policy, especially after the Irish vote. And it shows.
Mr. Nair, the Newsnight. Hello. Where do you stand on this issue of a referendum?
I can't comment.
can't comment. Do you think there should be a referendum on something else? Where do you stand on this issue of the referendum and what the party should...
Sorry, Michael.
Sorry?
Rather hope.
Have you not got no view on it?
Just got to go...
You know this is not going to happen.
What do you think about this referendum? Do you think there should be a referendum on something else?
David!
I think he's rather pretending that David Cameron. As many here hope the Czech president will hold out against Lisbon until the Tories can hold their referendum, Europe may trouble the party again tomorrow, with a meeting with the leader of the new European caucus to which the Tories now belong. The Pole, accused by David Miliband as having a neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic past.